the one who sent us here. We also take care of
Good afternoon, everyone. It seems as if the presenter got bumped off, so we will wait a few minutes to see if she is able to reconnect.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, great. So we were looking at how do we take care of our spirits, seeing that that is the core for our immune strength. It has a direct link. So we reconnect with the Maker, and we spend time with our Maker through reading, praying, singing, musing on the word daily. And it's amazing because you'll find that this habit as a routine often helps us to refocus so that if there is any type of sickness, one isn't crushed by it as easily or stays crushed, but one is able to find hope and perspective through the eyes of faith as one walks through whatever one is dealing with. And then, of course, connecting with like-minded people is very key, very key. Okay, let me. All right, so I need my technical support. I'm not getting my presentation to move forward. Okay, all right, I'm moving forward like this. Okay, good. So our soul is that part that has essentially the emotions, the will, and the intellect. And it is used interchangeably with our spirits. And indeed, as you see in Proverbs 3:21 and 22, you see the power of keeping a healthy soul, in maintaining health. All right. Proverbs chapter 6, verse 32. Again, another very practical example, especially in our Caribbean context. Adultery is AKA to sweethearting here. It's not a wise thing, okay? Because we destroy our own soul. All right, and ways in which you can improve your soul's health is do not violate your conscience. All right, there are a number of ideas flowing around this time of a new infection that really challenges persons to make individual choices. At the end of the day, you do not want to live with yourself having made a choice that you're not comfortable with. So do not violate your conscience. Your conscience is a sense of God's standard for your life. Okay, and everybody is given that as an individual trait. Proverbs chapter 8, verse 36 bears this out. But he who sins against me wrongs his own soul, and all those who hate me love death. Another way that we can improve our soul's health is learning to be merciful and to be generous. And you see the scripture backs that up. Okay, backs that up. Pursuing love, knowledge, and instruction is another way in which we improve our soul's health. Proverbs chapter 18, verse 32 tells us that he who disdains instruction despises his own soul, but he who heeds rebuke gets understanding. All this, believe it or not, is linked to the health of our immune system. So we watch our speech, we engage in wholesome mental, emotional activity. All these things, as I said, feeds into our immune system for the body. We learn to relax or chillax. We practically listen to soothing, inspirational music, art, whatever makes you tick, that is wholesome, you give yourself to. And now we move on to the body, which is what everybody sees clearly, of course, made up of many different systems. And its health, as I said before, is determined by what is done internally. So now we're in the realm of the physical. Let's look at the external factors that contribute to the health of the body and therefore are affected by the immune system and affects the immune system. So you're looking at the food that you eat. And I know Nurse Forbes did say that there was a registered dietitian or nutritionist that came in and expounded on this. But I just want to sound it again, because in particular, when we look at boosting our immune system, we can never stress this enough. It is these factors form the foundation for everything else that gets put on top of it. So you're looking at eating low salt, avoiding processed foods, avoiding sugary foods. And these are not just foods where you could taste the sugar, but these are foods that actually break down into sugars. And so you want to avoid the simple carbohydrates, the white bread or the white pasta. Now, persons who have kidney disease on a particular path, there are things that, for example, they are the ones to eat the white bread and the white pasta. But generally, unless if one is not on that renal disease spectrum, or one is not allergic to gluten, then you can go ahead and enjoy these things. You want to look at the types of fat. So you want to avoid the trans fat, the fat that you get from frying things or having things made in a pastry type of way. You want to eat good fats. You want to have fats like olive oil and coconut oil and your nut oils. Those are healthy fats. Fats in foods like avocado, which is pretty common at this point in time. You want to incorporate those healthy fats. You want to also make sure that your food is not grown in the presence of toxic chemicals and pesticides and exposed to a lot of hormones. And I'm thinking, when I think hormones, I'm thinking of, yes, what we love is chicken. Okay, we want our chicken to be organic as much as possible. Better yet, if you know where your chicken comes from, have it, enjoy it. You want to be able to enjoy healthy fish, right? If you're into salmon, you want to make sure it's wild caught and so forth. And at the end of the day, research says that a plant-based diet really helps to stave off all diseases, especially the chronic diseases, things like hypertension, obesity, cancers, diabetes, high cholesterol. You want to eat from the soil. Okay, you want to not just eat from the soil, you want to grow what you eat. You would agree with me, given how the world is going today, wisdom says, start your little garden. Don't be dependent on the food store as much as you can, right? And this can be a project, a family project, where the children and the grandchildren can get involved a little bit at a time. Start with growing your herbs. Start with your short-term crops. Use whatever vessels you have. If you don't have a backyard, there is no reason why we can't move forward in this respect. And of course, physical activity. We want to get out there, get moving, get sweating, do the activities that we enjoy. If you're an older person or you have high blood pressure or any of those comorbidities, check with your doctor before you engage in rigorous, in physical activity. But you want to get moving, because movement helps to build your immune system. And according to the WHO, per week, we're looking at a minimum of 150 minutes of moderately intense activity, aerobic activity, like brisk walking and like jogging, and then 75 minutes of vigorous activity, like running and swimming and so forth. Find an activity that you enjoy. If you're not accustomed to exercising, I tell my clients, start small, commit to 5 minutes a day. Can we do that? 5 minutes a day of physical activity, whether it be marching on the spot, whether it be, if you're a little bit more fit, skipping rope, whether it be jumping jacks, any activity that you enjoy, you can do. Okay, so moving on to the specifics with respect to COVID-19 and boosting your immune health. So this virus, group of viruses, has been around for a while, but COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2 is the virus. And this comes from a large family of viruses. And these viruses actually live in animals, in particular bats. Bats is the mammal that has the highest level of the coronavirus. And it's interesting because even though bats are mammals, they don't get sick from coronavirus like that. And that is thought to be because they have high levels of melatonin. And melatonin is one of those supplements that we will talk about later on. In humans, a number of coronaviruses are known to cause respiratory infections, okay, ranging from the slight common cold relatively to the more severe diseases such as the Middle East respiratory syndrome and, of course, SARS syndrome, of which we are SARS-CoV-2. COVID-19 is the most recently discovered coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2, to cause disease. So let's boost our system. First tip. Ready for this? Yes, change your focus. Remember what we said. We said that our outside is affected by what happens on our inside. So it makes sense that we are to change our focus from that which causes fear to that which causes faith. Okay, we're moving from the realm of fear into the realm of faith. I have been privileged to treat scores of patients fighting this condition for the last, how many ever months, just over a year plus, that this condition existed. And the foundation is this. This is the number one thing I tell them. You are going to live. You're not going to die. Okay? In the natural, the percentage of persons that live when they contract SARS-CoV-2 is over 97%, even here in the Bahamas. If you listen to regular media, you will believe that it's the other way around, that 97% of people die, but that's not true. It's 97%, over 97% of people that live. So you have to arm yourself with the mentality that I'm not going to die, I am going to live. Okay, so it is key. Anything that is birthed in fear produces torment. Anxiety, in the realm of medicine, it is found that anxiety causes the increase of certain hormones, flight and fright hormones, including cortisol. And cortisol, the hormone, impedes the function of our immune system. So you want to really settle the score as tip number one in your fight to boost your immune health. Good. So again, the scripture bears this out. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. As you think inside, that is what gets actualized. So you have to pay attention to what you look at and what you hear. What are you feeding yourself? Are you feeding yourself the number of people who died? Not that those persons aren't important or didn't mean something to somebody, but if that's all that is recurring in your world, then God forbid this thing challenges your health. The first thing that you'll go to subconsciously is that reality. So you want to look at what you hear. You want to pay attention to what you hear and what you look at, and you want to pay attention to how long. I'm not saying don't check for your local news. I'm just saying sometimes we just have to turn it off. Sometimes you say, okay, I'll listen to just 2 minutes and then get the gist and that's enough. Or I'll just not listen for a week, just cleanse my system before I keep going again. The second tip is to get adequate rest. Now notice the person is laying in their bed, okay? So that suggests that rest should be something that we are intentional about. We don't just fall asleep just wherever. We are intentional about getting adequate rest. And it has been found that we need at least 7 hours of rest as adults. Kids need a bit more. Younger kids, anywhere from 10 to 14 hours of rest, and the teenagers, about 10 hours of rest, 8 to 10 hours of rest. Interestingly, research shows that the first 2 to 3 hours before bedtime, before midnight, actually ensures greater restoration and repair in the body. In particular, the brain is able to detox itself better when we go to bed before midnight. It is said that the sleep that you get before midnight is doubly restorative than the sleep you get after midnight. So let's see how that makes sense. One could say, okay, I'll get 8 hours of sleep. The 8-hour of sleep period between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. is that 10 to midnight hour, that's 2 hours. The body registers that as 4 hours, doubly restorative and reparative. So that sleep in that period is way more beneficial to the body than getting sleep from 1 a.m. to 9 a.m. Yes, it's the same 8 hours, but your body was able to do much more in restoring and repairing itself by getting sleep before midnight. Now, as I said, going to sleep should be a deliberate act, which therefore means that there are things that we should do and there are things that we shouldn't do. One of the things that we should do is to come off technology and media at least 2 hours before the planned bedtime period. So for example, if you determine from today moving forward, because of this information that you are armed with, to go to bed at 10:30, then it means that by 8:30, the iPad, the phone, the television ideally should be turned off. This allows our brains and our bodies to settle down, to quiet itself for more restorative sleep. And observing sleep hygiene is important, especially for those who have problems sleeping. That includes taking a warm bath before bedtime, drinking some warm milk, non-dairy is great, having the lights turned off or turned low, having low volume instrumental music piping through your room, and using aromatherapy. All those are little tricks to help you get into sleep mode. And remember, for those of us who have problems sleeping, this takes practice. Supplements like melatonin and chamomile tea also help to incite sleep. Melatonin is a hormone that we produce naturally around the time when the sun sets, and gets expressed in its fullest when it's in the nighttime. And chamomile tea has a very calming sensation. So the first tip was to watch what we think, moving from fear to faith. The second tip was to get adequate rest. The third point is, can you guess what it is by the picture? That's right. Drink adequate water. Water is what makes up over 60% of our bodies. And our bodies require water, therefore, for function. Water, preferably not tea. And by tea here, I mean like the regular green tea, Lipton tea. Any tea that has caffeine in it tends to have a dehydrating effect. So you don't want that to be counted in your water. If it's a decaf tea, that's fine. Juice, right? I'm not counting juice because juice is high in sugar. So we just want that clear fluid element that doesn't tax our system too much. That's what we call as water, or to provide adequate hydration. And you can flavor your water as the picture had shown, whether you put fruits in it or vegetables in it, like cucumber. And you may ask, how much water is enough? Generally, as a guide, until your urine is light yellow, persons who have heart failure or who have heart disease, their doctors may guide them. They may require less water. But generally, another guideline is half of your weight in pounds is the volume of water that your body may require in ounces. So let's do it like this. Let's say for someone who is 160 pounds, right? Half of that is, yes, 80. So that means that that person as a guide would require about 80 ounces of water a day. Now, every 8 ounces is 1 cup, what we call a glass. So that means that that person will require, yes, 10 glasses of water a day, 10 8-ounce cups of water a day. Are you drinking enough water? Tip number 4, sunshine. Okay, sunshine. Smile with the sunshine. Love it. The sunshine has many benefits. We all know about the vitamin D and the anti-inflammatory effects it has. Actually, the body requires sunshine to activate vitamin D into the active form of vitamin D. Now, I know we live in the Caribbean, most of us do, and we may say, well, I get enough sunshine, or we naturally have a lot of sunshine, so my vitamin D levels should be good. But it has been found that darker skinned persons actually have the melanin that serve as a sunscreen. And as a result, the body's not able to absorb enough of the good elements, the radiation, to change the vitamin D from inactive to active. So darker skinned persons may have vitamin D deficiency or insufficiency. Also, the older we get, the slower that mechanism of conversion is. Persons who fight certain chronic diseases, they may have problems over time making that conversion real. So, and persons who are overweight or obese, that also can hinder the conversion process. So don't take it for granted because you live in the Caribbean or you live close to the equator, that automatically means that you have enough vitamin D. The sunshine also lowers the blood pressure, it fights depression, and also encourages us to get out there and exercise, which helps with weight loss and anxiety, especially in times like these. It also has been found to have some effect in fighting prostate cancer, dementia, and heart problems. Tip number 5, you guessed it, gotta get moving. Find what you enjoy and do it. And we talked about the parameters for that and what was recommended and for how long. Tip number 6, yes, eating a balanced diet, eat well. And I love this picture because this picture embodies a colorful plate. If you're vegetarian or vegan, there are certain things you wouldn't have on your plate, but nonetheless, the issue is more plant-based items, which you can see here, and have a variety of foods that are rich in vitamin C, such as your citrus, your sweet peppers, your spinach, your kiwi, and the berries. The berries I love because they give you the vitamin C plus very powerful anti-inflammatory elements without sending your blood sugar sky high like some other fruits do. You want to consume foods high in zinc, like beans, nuts, whole grains, dairy, oysters, crabs, and lobsters. If you are not vegan, that's fine. If you are, then you can get it through whole grains, your beans, and your nuts. And dark green leafy vegetables like spinach and kale, those deliver powerful doses of magnesium as well. Vitamin E rich foods like your nuts of various types and the dark green leafy vegetables, they also come highly recommended. And turmeric, whether it be the ground one or whether you do the organic turmeric powder, for turmeric to be best absorbed, it should be used with black pepper. And tip number 7, your botanicals. And this is an area that I really do enjoy researching and using. Look at what is featured here, the lemongrass or fever grass. This generally, botanicals need to be better studied, or we would all agree. We need to treat, in a sense, botanicals as we do pharmaceuticals, where we study how much to use, what the concentration should be like, and how often to use it, when to stop using it, because at times using too many botanicals at one point in time for extended periods can put extra load on your liver, kidney. So one has to use it mindfully. Using it along with food is the safest way. So getting your ginger in and your turmeric in by cooking or by tea is the safest way. But in times like these, at times we need to do a little bit more than cooking with these things. We need to deliberately boil them and steep them and have them percolating. So fever grass or lemongrass has been used over time to reduce fevers. It's said to be high in zinc and vitamin C. And so that is something that you want to have near and dear to you, boil and use. There is as well, for us here, cerasee. Cerasee is also said to be high in zinc and very effective at dealing a whack at respiratory conditions. Ginger, definitely a must in there. Onion, high in quercetin, which is a supplement or substance that helps zinc to do its job better. We also want to small leaf thyme, the fine leaf thyme, as well as the broad leaf thyme, the Spanish thyme. Those help with respiratory health. I know in Europe, the naturopathic doctors use the small leaf thyme in their as teas and can be sweetened with honey, and lemon or lime can be added to it. It is said to be a natural antibiotic and antiviral agent. All these things become handy to use in times of like these, like COVID. Aloe is not in there, but aloe is said to be an anti-inflammatory agent. Aloe is can be blended with pineapple and honey and used as a concoction, quarter cup, for example. In this condition, aloe helps works with the pineapple and honey to reduce the risk of clots as well. Be aware of its use if one has diarrhea, because aloe can make diarrhea worse. But outside of that, and it also can increase bleeding with respect to women who are menstruating. So you want to be mindful of these things. So there is definitely use for the herbs. We just have to investigate it better. Tip number 8, no sugar, no added sugar, okay? No, we want to ensure that we are not adding more sugar to what is already in the food. And remember, there are foods that do not taste sweet that break down into sugar. So we just want to just be aware or beware of it, okay? High sugar actually impedes the immune system. It actually makes white blood cells, the soldiers, makes them very sluggish. Before I go into supplements, I would also put a plug in. There is, for those who are diabetic, you can have that sugar taste without the sugar spike by using monk fruit sugar. The dietitian may have spoken to you about it, or stevia. These are natural sweeteners that do not spike your blood sugar. And this is not just for people who are diabetic, but people who are just want to reduce their sugars. You can still get a sugar kind of taste without the effect by using monk fruit, which is a actual fruit that grows in Asia and has been used for centuries, and they've derived the sugar out of it, and stevia. You want to watch agave. I've found that persons have a false belief that agave is fine, and that's not true. One serving of agave has 16 grams of sugar, 1/6. I often teach my patients, for every 4 grams of sugar that you see on a label, that's equivalent to 1 teaspoon of sugar. Okay, so if you're having agave and you're thinking that it's fine, be aware, because 1 tablespoon of agave is 4 teaspoons of sugar. Would you sit down and eat 4 teaspoons of sugar? Most of us wouldn't. So let's be mindful. Honey is similar to agave with respect to the amount of sugar, but honey has the edge, in my opinion, because it is antimicrobial and also has certain enzymes in it. So you want to look for the raw, unfiltered, unprocessed honey, which is better. Okay, so enough of sugar. Let's move on to supplements. All right, so in working to improve and boost our immune system, there are some supplements that come to the fore. Now remember, as the picture shows you, the basis for supplement use is really a healthy diet, meaning that if we focus on a variety of foods fruits and vegetables, then it means that we are not as dependent on supplements to get us going. The issue is because we are living in a world where the soil is not as healthy as it should be, because we have certain growing practices. We are not quite sure how much zinc or these supplements, elements we would be getting. So this is why we do supplement. Having said that, for respiratory health, we're looking at doing zinc, elemental zinc, 25 to 50 milligrams a day. Vitamin C, 250 to 500 milligrams every 6 to 8 hours. And the reason why ideally it is at that level is because our bodies really can't absorb more vitamin C at a time. Vitamin D3, at least 5,000 international units a day. Okay, now if at all possible, I would strongly recommend that you speak with your doctor and you do a vitamin D3 or 25 hydroxy D level. That tells you how low or how high your vitamin D level is and how aggressive you should be to take on the dosage that you should take daily. I must also say that vitamin D, research says that persons who have low vitamin D levels, they tend to not do very well with COVID. They tend to be hospitalized. So a big part in fighting the tendency to get really sick is boosting your vitamin D level. So zinc, in particular, protects the virus from entering into respiratory cells. And it works along with another supplement called quercetin to do that. Quercetin, zinc's twin. I often describe them as the bouncers in a party. They prevent the guys you don't want into your body from coming in, the viruses. So zinc and quercetin are twins, and they enhance each other's effect to protect the virus, to protect our bodies from the viral entry. Zinc also preserves our tissue barriers. It inhibits the replication of the virus, and it balances immune response during the infectious disease. With COVID, the problem is not so much the virus, but the body's reaction to the presence of the virus. That's what makes people very sick. So elements like zinc help to modify that immune response, that inflammatory response, so that one doesn't get too sick while the body clears itself of the virus. And there are certain persons who are at risk for low zinc, and see these groups: persons who are obese, persons who are asthmatic, persons who have diabetes, hypertension, autoimmune diseases, and dialysis. They are persons who may be low in zinc. In particular, hypertensives may use certain medications that make them prone to zinc deficiency, and those medicines include your ACE inhibitor type of medicines, your enalapril and so forth. I don't want you to stop taking your pressure medicines. I did not say that. I would say you have a discussion with your doctor and you use supplemental zinc. Now, the supplements, there are other supplements that help. Before I move on to tip number 10, other supplements include melatonin. We talked about melatonin briefly. Melatonin helps us to settle down into sleep. But melatonin at 5 to 10 milligrams has been shown to help fight the presence of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. It actually helps to preserve energy function by attaching to the mitochondria or the energy forming units of our cells, and so helps us not to be fully whacked by the virus. So melatonin between 5 and 10 milligrams a night. is what is advocated, as well as there is a supplement called N-acetylcysteine or NAC, NAC. That is a substance that helps with energy production. And that also is anti-inflammatory. And one can use that 600 milligrams twice a day. 600 milligrams twice a day of NAC. If you type NAC in your search engine, it will show up, okay?
Oh,
The last tip is
oh,
aromatherapy. And I don't know about you, but I love good scents, especially scents that build my health. And it has been found a number of scents do that. A number of scents, essential oils, do have antimicrobial, antiviral effects. So if you have this diffuser or these scents percolating in your home, it may help to reduce the amount of virus, the amount of bacterial elements in the air. And this is not just for your home, but this may be for your work environment and so forth. So what are these scents in particular? Bergamot, eucalyptus, lavender. I call them bell. You put equal drops of these in your diffuser and you allow the scent to percolate in your room. Tea tree oil also has a place in this. Clary sage also has a place in this. So you can always make sure that the essential oils you use, make sure that they are organic. If you can get it like that, definitely without pollutants and contaminants. So you don't necessarily want any old essential oil. You want to have a good grade essential oil. Okay. Now, in here, I had in one of my slides, I don't see it here, but we spoke of ivermectin, right? And ivermectin is a drug that has FDA approval. It has been around for over 30 years. It was the person who discovered ivermectin, a Japanese scientist, researcher. He and his American counterpart got the Nobel Peace Prize, I think in 2015, for its discovery. And ivermectin has been used as an anti-parasitic agent to fight worms and worm-borne diseases in a lot of places, including Africa, the continent of Africa. And interestingly, it was found that in those countries where there was ivermectin use, the contraction of COVID was very low. Hardly anybody in those countries developed COVID, and the death rate was significantly lower. And it was out of that, it was recalled or remembered that ivermectin also has an antiviral property. It actually stops the replication of the SARS-CoV-2 virus in the body. It can be used off-label use. Okay, it's an off-label use, but can be used in providing prevention or prophylaxis from SARS-CoV-2, as well as very effective in early treatment. Treatment generally, but the earlier the better. I have found in my practice in helping people that in particular, the body aches tend to go away very quickly, and the loss of taste and smell tends to return. The taste and smell tends to return very quickly when ivermectin is started. And the outcome looks a lot better when you have ivermectin on board. So that is something that can be prescribed. It is not over the counter. You need your doctor to prescribe it for you. And ideally it is, for best effect, it is prescribed according to your weight. Okay, it is prescribed according to your weight. So if you get your hands, I know of people, they somehow get their hands on ivermectin and they say, Doc, I'm just taking one. One wouldn't cut it for you. One wouldn't cut it for you. If you're more than 75 pounds, 1 6 milligram tablet will not do. So make sure it is properly prescribed for you and you take it with food to increase the absorption. Okay. So ivermectin is one of those oral medications that enjoys off-label use that is effective. There are places in India, I think it's Uttar Pradesh, that particular state proves that, okay, proves that. So they've used it in large population studies in Peru, Mexico, and it has been shown that persons who use ivermectin, when they test positive, the government gave, the Ministry of Health in those countries gave ivermectin as part of a care kit to its persons who tested positive. And those persons who got that care kit with the ivermectin, they did better. There was less hospitalization and less death in that subgroup. So ivermectin gives us hope. Whether you're vaccinated or not, it still has a place because we understand now that vaccinated persons can be infected with the virus and can spread it to others. So it doesn't matter. There is oral medication that can help to reduce the risk of getting significant disease. And with that, I am open to any questions or comments while you look at the bibliography.
Dr. Prince, it's been an awesome presentation. And I'm sure all those viewing have gained information. Certain things have been re-emphasized and reinforced.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, we come in with a question, Shandy.
Too long.
I tried to take it off. Okay, let me see if I can come there. Hello? Can you hear me?
Shandy is muted.
Well, Shandy can unmute herself. Shandy? Okay, I'll just look in the chat and go through what I see until Shandy comes back on. But what an awesome presentation, food for thought. Some points were re-emphasized, good for us. Dr. Prince, someone is asking, so why the vast difference between doctors on using ivermectin, saying it's not effective and not initially meant for human use medically? Hello?
Yes, hello?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. All right. Okay,
Yes.
great.
Okay,
So what is the difference between doctors' opinions using ivermectin? Is it that?
Yes.
Okay. That is a very good question. I am not quite, these are my thoughts. There seems to be a medical mainstream view that a lot of colleagues subscribe to, and perhaps they're not aware of the strength of the research that ivermectin has in this regard. I will tell you, I follow very closely doctors who do work in helping people in this scenario, and the frontline COVID critical care doctors based in the US is one such group, headed by Dr. Paul Marek, Dr. Pierre Corey. Everybody may have heard of Dr. Stella. who was she was a very gutsy, brave physician who just spoke her mind and got us stirred. But not just that group, but also doctors like Dr. Mobeen, who's an internist, Dr. Shetty, who is a general physician. He's based in South Africa, treated thousands of patients. Dr. DeMello, who's an Indian cardiologist, treated thousands of people. These people are aware of the power and effect of ivermectin and have brought it to light. There are over 29 randomized controlled trials showing the effectiveness of ivermectin as an antiviral. As I said, it's already on the WHO's list of essential drugs, which suggests that it is safe and does more good than harm. Yes, it has not been used generally for SARS-CoV-2, but SARS-CoV-2 is a new entity. But it was found from prior that it has efficacy against influenza virus. And so it was found with SARS-CoV-2. So I'm not quite sure why a lot of my colleagues haven't been on board with it, but at the end of the day, we have to treat patients or else patients don't do well. We can't just depend on one strategy to get the job done. And this is why your presentation or your initiative is such a good one, because it looks at many other ways to get the job done.
Yeah. Shandy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, well.
Okay, so is there a potential for overuse of D3, vitamin C, zinc, the combo usually advised to take daily? I personally do 10K vitamin D, 1K vitamin C, and 25 to 50 zinc and lemon, hot lemon water regularly. So that's the question. Can you overdose on those vitamins?
So the short answer is yes. As with anything in life, if you drink too much water, that can be a problem. So it is recommended, like taking zinc for prolonged periods without copper can produce a copper deficiency, okay? So it is recommended that when you're taking these supplements, you also use a multivitamin so that you give your body what you may be deficient in. Sometimes a lot of us, we know our bodies, so we know when we've had enough of something, so we may stop it for a week and then restart it. Vitamin D3, it is said to be very hard to overdose on that though, because the normal range for vitamin D3 is actually quite wide, anywhere from 30 nanograms per ml to 100 nanograms per milliliter. And in fact, Dr. DeMello himself recommends that the vitamin D3 level be ideally in the 90s. A lot of us a lot of patients that I check, their vitamin D3 levels are less than 30, which is in the insufficiency zone. So taking 10,000, 5,000 vitamin D3 daily is not going to do much damage. For persons who I may have mentioned who are diagnosed with COVID and that I treat, I use vitamin D3 50,000 units every day for 10 days and they're fine. So yeah, so yes, you can overdose. You have to be sensitive to your body, use a multivitamin, and just continue to work on eating balanced through it all.
Thank you. Why the vast difference between doctors on using ivermectin, saying it's not effective and not initially meant for human use medically?
That's a repeat.
I think we answered that. Just to add to that, saying that yes, ivermectin, like other drugs, are used in humans and animals. So ivermectin is not the only drug that has been used in horses, for example. Okay, steroids are used in chickens. Steroids are used in the animals that give us meat. Antibiotics are used in all animals at some point, generally, if they're not organic. So to say that a drug is used in an animal and therefore we look down at it for being used in humans is really not a medically sound argument. We are talking about ivermectin, human use grade ivermectin, not the ivermectin that is used by the vets. And we are talking about responsibly prescribed ivermectin, not just use as much as you think you should, but being guided by a trained medical professional to do so. And the dosage, as I said, is based on protocols set out by the FLCCC to guide use.
Okay, thank you. Can the pineapple and aloe be used for persons who have clots as a result of stroke?
That is a good question. And I'll be the first one to tell you, I don't know. I do not know. One may say, well, that's reasonable, but then one may ask, what's the reason for the clot? Is it that the person had high cholesterol and they had too much, quote unquote, fat in their blood, and that broke off from the blood vessels and traveled up to form a clot? If that is the reason, it may not be the most effective way to prevent a stroke, you see, because these are multifactorial ways, and these would have to be studied to say for sure, yes.
Okay. How effective is the extended release vitamin C in comparison with the recommended doses of vitamin C every 6 hours?
Okay, so the extended release vitamins generally are just that, released slowly over time. And so you can take a higher amount once it's being released slowly over time and as marketed as an extended release. So if the idea is to have 3 grams of vitamin C a day, if you're able to get a preparation that is 3 grams extended release, then it does the same kind of job. Oh, it should.
Okay. Is it better to boil or use hot water to steep herbs, blue flowers, neem, moringa, fever grass, etc.?
Okay, so I'm not a herbalist, although I do some study of it. As an integrative physician, that's an area that I would really like to learn more. There is generally, for some herbs, a benefit to steeping rather than boiling, or what they call maceration. But I can't say for sure, to be honest, okay? I know so far, if you do boil it, you boil and then you take it off and you allow the hot elements to allow it to steep over time. There are, for certain supplements, you don't do any heat to it. You just put it in the water and you let it steep, you let it macerate overnight. So, but I can't comment with confidence on those herbs said and to compare the two. I just put it under heat and then boil and then take it off and let it steep.
Okay. Thank you so much for your presentation, Dr. Prince. I greatly appreciate it, and I am grateful for your presence with us this evening. I wanted to ask 4 questions. Number 1, can I get your email or other form of contact? That's the first question. Do you want me to read all the questions one time or go through them? Okay. Number 2, regarding the biblical understanding of the soul. Have you ever come across the teaching that the soul refers to the totality of man? That is the dust that God made him from, plus the breath of God that was breathed into his nostrils. Number 3, regarding the biblical understanding of the spirit, have you ever come across the teaching that the spirit can be defined as the breath, vital powers, or the will of man? Number 4, regarding shellfish, what would you say to someone who asks about the correlation between them and high cholesterol?
Okay, so with respect to items 2 and 3, while I am a believer, I'm not a Bible scholar in the formal sense of it, but as presented, the soul and the spirit can be interchangeably used in the scriptures. It's kind of like I described the whole makeup of man more easily put in, but perhaps not as discreetly walled off as an egg, where there is the yolk, there is the albumin or the white, and then there is the shell. 3 parts, 1 entity. Each part has a separate but an interlinking function with the other. And I think that I'm not the best person to just kind of, shred that into pieces. But at the end of the day, regardless of what we know, the issue is knowledge is for function. So you want to make sure that whatever you're delving into with respect to discussion has a function. There's something that tangibly can come out of it so that it improves your life and your life's function and execution. So that's how I would address items 2 and 3. With respect to item 4, which remind me is, as was a medical question.
Item 4 is regarding shellfish.
Yeah,
what would you say to someone who asks about the correlation between them and the high cholesterol?
Right. So yes, there are seafood, well, shellfish in particular, lobster, crawfish, they are linked with high cholesterol. So if you fight high cholesterol, that's one of the things that we would say reduce or stay away from, even though you love it, but you have to control these chronic issues first before you're allowed to dabble a little bit into it, under watchful eye. With respect to the first question, which is the easiest, my email is Dr. and that's capital D, and you spell out the word doctor, DOCTOR, capital M, capital S as in Sammy, capital P as in Paul, number 1, that's a numeral 1 @gmail.com. And I work at Southern Community General Clinic. That's in Nassau, Bahamas on Soldier Road. The office number, and I could probably type it in the chat, 328-6360, 328-6360. And my working mobile is 242-807-8122. I prefer to be WhatsApped messaged because I'm just a lot of busy these days rather than to be called off guard, and then I can get to your concern as I can in between. It has been a busy season for me trying to help people along, and I'm very happy to say that out of the about 45 clients I've had to treat with this condition, only 1 went home. And that one, I got her late in the game and she had multiple issues and she needed to be hospitalized, and then she was later intubated. But everybody else thus far have lived. It has been rough with some of them, but early and aggressive treatment really does save lives. And so if you know of anyone who's been diagnosed with COVID positivity, or you yourself, don't sit back, okay? Don't wish it away, get help, okay? The earlier you get help, the better it is, the less expensive it is on you, the earlier you get help, okay?
There
What
are
are
some
your
more.
thoughts on the vaccine? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Maybe take 2 more questions, the one you were just going to ask and another one.
What are your thoughts about hydroxychloroquine and your thoughts on the vaccine as an immune support?
Okay, so hydroxychloroquine is medication that is used generally to modify the immune system. It has been used in treating persons with lupus. And I remember prescribing it as a young doctor working with our rheumatologist here some moons ago at the hospital. It's called Plaquenil, and persons who fight rheumatoid arthritis or SLE, they get prescribed 200 milligrams of it daily, and they use it every day for years on end. And as doctors, we would look at their liver function test every 3 months to make sure that that's in order, and they work well with it. The use of hydroxychloroquine in the treatment of SARS-CoV-2 is, again, another off-label use of the medication. I will also let you know that 20% of the medications that doctors use to help treat people to get better, 20% of them are used off-label. So it's not a strange thing for doctors to use drugs under a different reason than has been approved by the FDA. So I personally have not, I have had it used in just about 2 of my patients. And the persons who use it, they are willing and they ask me for it. And once I assess that their cardiac function is stable, nothing off or amiss, then they use it 200 milligrams twice a day for 5 days, and it works extremely well. In particular, when COVID first occurred, it seemed to be, the research says that it seemed to be more effective in earlier variants than the Delta. Again, that is what research seems to suggest. But I've had one lady in particular who used it during this Delta period here in the Bahamas, and you know, she loves it. She used it along with ivermectin. Hydroxychloroquine works similar to zinc and quercetin. So it tries to keep the virus out and reduces the viral replication and translation. So if one doesn't have hydroxychloroquine or access to it, just don't despair. Zinc and quercetin work along with the ivermectin. Okay, the potential side effect that can occur with hydroxychloroquine is cardiac arrhythmia. So where the heart beats offbeat, and that can be fatal. But having said that, that's a fairly rare occurrence. But if it happens, you don't want it to happen on your watch. So that's the potential downside. But as I said, for years, the persons who fight autoimmune illnesses would use it and be fine. It's just being used twice a day for just a short period of time. By and large, it should be safe. With respect to vaccination, that is a hot button topic for many people. I maintain that it is a personal choice, and it needs to really be respected as a personal choice. There are those of us as health professionals who have been vaccinated, and there are those of us who have not been vaccinated. Okay, but it is a personal choice. Vaccinations have helped the masses of people over time, have prevented illness, which is what a true vaccine has historically has done. We vaccinate our children against polio and measles and tetanus so that they don't have to get these horrible conditions that have claimed many lives in the past. So vaccinations aren't bad. You know, the vaccination process generally goes through a timeline of minimum of 5 years and tested in animals for a worthy period of time so that we know what kind of, have an idea of the kind of side effects that one may experience in the human. This particular vaccination thrust hasn't enjoyed that lengthy of a time. It's now uses a different basis to immunize or to produce immunity in its population that has some medical professionals concerned. Nonetheless, it is your choice. Vaccination needs to be considered very seriously by those who are at high risk. But having said that, even persons who are high risk, if they take care of themselves early and aggressively, they too can do well. There's a lot of things we don't understand and we don't know about this condition as well as vaccines. And so more research would need to be done.
That's it, Shandy. Once again, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
we can hear you. Go ahead. We can hear you.
Yeah, once again, we want to express thanks and appreciation to Dr. Prince. Thank you so much. Very, very informative, very, very educational. And as was always said, our prayer and our help is to give information and hopefully it enable all of us to make better choices for ourselves and play a direct role into our own health. At this time, we're going to go into, we have 5 kits, COVID kits. I'll just go over what is in the kits, and then we'll give them out. In the kit, we have 10 pairs of non-sterile gloves. We have 10 pairs of masks that comes in a pack. We have hand sanitizer, one of those. We have a thermometer, it's still in the box. It's a digital thermometer and it reads in 30 seconds, clinically accurate, oral, rectal, or underarm use. Recalls last reading, and it has a dual scale. It reads in Fahrenheit or centigrade based on your choice. And then we have the pulse oximeter. It comes with the instructions and it's all brand new. It comes with the batteries and everything in the case. And it's very easy and simple to use. And this is very, very important if someone has COVID in helping them to decide and their physician when it's time to be more aggressive in management, because this tells us the oxygen saturation in the blood. So that's our COVID kit that everyone can perhaps have at home and handy. And also in our kit, we have a book, excellent book, Steps to Christ. Dr. Prince lists as number 1, faith, not fail, in building our immune system. Reading this book, you will find faith in your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So we have that in there as well. Now we are working, that's our health kit for now. And we are working on the securing some, oh Lord, the hot and cold pads that we need if we have to give fermentation, the fermentation pads. We haven't gotten that as yet. It is an expensive item, so we're trying to see how we can get the information as simple so that we can perhaps make them up ourselves. So for now, that's the urgent items in our kit. And we would include in this kit all the emergency numbers so that you can, on a card, so that you can put that on your fridge. And in the event of the emergency, you would have it. At the top of it should be your physician, Princess Margaret Hospital Emergency Room, Doctor's Hospital, and boat ambulance. Those things should be readily accessible so that whenever there's an emergency, because sometimes you go in such a panic you don't remember. So things like that should be there. So there's a card in there with those urgent numbers. Now we want to give out these 5 kits today. And here is how we're going to do that. Pastor sent me something that I'm going to use. Very good. Now write in the chat, the first person to tell me who was our first guest presenter. Who was our first guest presenter? We had a series of 7 out of 7. Shandy, be looking. Quickly type your answer in the chat, and that person would qualify for a kit, a COVID kit. Who was our first guest presenter? Well, there are no answers as yet. So while you're contemplating that.
Okay, we have Helen said Dr. Alec.
No.
Markley said Curtis Bryan.
No.
Curtis Bryan said Dr. Higgs.
Yes, Dr. Higgs. Dr. Alvara Higgs was our first COVID presenter. So that our first kit goes to Curtis Bryan. But Curtis Bryan, congratulations. The first person to put in the chat that they have not missed a meeting. Anybody who have not missed a meeting, the first person, name we see, will get it. Anyone have not missed a meeting? First person.
Unmute Sister Rochelle.
Oh, thank you, Pastor. C. Stewart said that she has not missed the meeting.
Okay.
And Curtis Bryan said that we can give someone else the COVID kit. So I see here Rose iPad. She had close to Alvara Higgs. I'm believing that it was her intention to put Alvara Higgs. So
Yes, I
Rose
was typing out
iPad.
our pigs. I was typing it messed up.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
ma'am. So,
Thank you very much.
so Rose, you are our first COVID kit winner.
What is Rose's last name? And we need a contact because we need to link up how she will, where she will pick up the kit from and when.
And it's Rose Cooper.
Darling, I know you very well. So you just need to call me. We're in the health group so that you can arrange so you can get your kit perhaps tomorrow.
Thank you
So,
very much. Thank
yeah.
you.
Okay. And the other person was, we were looking for the first person to put in the chat that they have not missed a meeting. Did we have somebody?
C. Stewart, could you unmute your mic, please, and give us your name and contact?
Yes, I'm Cindy Stewart.
Okay. Well, I know that person.
Well, we know how to reach you.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Third winner goes to a person from the family island. Anybody tune in from any of the family islands this afternoon? We'd like to present you with a kit. Wow.
There is one.
Dessa Bodie said that she's on from Cat Island. Dessa Bodie.
Okay, let's make sure I write down that name. You have the correct spelling of her name.
Yes,
then-
I have the correct spelling. You
You have
can
a
put your contact in the chat for me, please, Miss Bodie. You can send it either directly to me or. Oh, okay, I got it. All right, I have your contact, Miss Bodie. All right.
Okay. And that's the fourth person, Samson 120 sent a nice message in the chat. Is that